Ladies and gentlemen, it is Classic Week. In a mere 3 days, the 2026 Bassmaster Classic will kick off on the Tennessee River in Knoxville, and someone's life will change forever. So it only seems right that we give you guys a proper preview of the biggest week in bass fishing. And to do that, we have enlisted the help of Bassmaster broadcaster Ronnie Moore. So we'll dive into some classic memories, an overview of the Tennessee River, predictions, and more on today's episode of Tackle Talk.
Hello, everybody. I'm Bill Dance, and you're listening to Tackle Talk.
This is the Tackle Talk podcast, brought to you by The Rod Locker. Premium gear and expert advice from a staff you can trust. Now, here's your host, Andrew Hayes.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Tackle Talk podcast. Before we begin today, I have to thank the folks that make this whole show possible, the Rod Locker. There are so many reasons why the Rod Locker should be the first place that you check for fishing gear. They have an ever-expanding line of rods, reels, line, baits. They have the internet's best selection of lightly used fishing rods and reels. They have the nation's best rod and reel trade-in program. Their platinum membership gets you access to free shipping all year long with no minimums. You get 5 times reward points on every single order you make, and you get access to exclusive sales and deals. Like this past week, it wasn't an exclusive deal for platinum members, but platinum members got notified about it, was the newest Megabass Respect Series colors dropped over at the Rod Locker. And I'm not usually a giant Respect Series fan, but this was a color that I really wanted. It's called Spring Reaction or something like that. I saw it teased a couple weeks ago, and I was like, when that comes out, I need to get a couple of those because those will kill around us. And I wanted to make sure I grabbed them. Luckily for me, because I'm a Rod Locker Platinum member, I got notified when those went on the website, so I didn't miss out. You get all of that, plus you can use code TackleTalkMarch as always, so that you save an extra 5% off every single order. That code is sales stackable. It works on basically everything on the website. The code is TackleTalkMarch, all one word, over at www.rodlocker.com. Okay, everybody, I'm not going to take a bunch of time here today to do this intro because you guys heard it right there at the top. It is Classic Week, baby. So it's our Super Bowl. It is our March Madness. It's our World Series. This is the pinnacle of bass fishing. Of all the tournaments and the leagues and the trophies and awards and everything out there, one still reigns supreme, the Bassmaster Classic. And as you're listening to this on Tuesday, I will actually be in my truck on my way down to Tennessee to work the Classic again this year from the production side, which I'm so excited for. Definitely a treat that I do not take for granted. But I wanted to give you guys a proper Bassmaster Classic preview. And I figured who better to do that than the screen of knowledge wielding stats and numbers master on-air broadcaster, Ronnie Moore. So today we've got a fun kind of laid back look at what we're all about to watch go down in a couple days. We've got a mix of a little on the water breakdown, a little history, a little predictions, maybe even some hot takes thrown in there. But overall, I just wanted to set the stage for the best weekend of the year, the Classic. So sit back, relax, and enjoy our Bassmaster Classic preview with Ronnie Moore. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here to help us preview the 2026 Bassmaster Classic, none other than our buddy, Ronnie Moore. Ronnie, thank you for stopping by, man.
Man, I appreciate you making it work with my schedule and your schedule and our children and our families. So probably shooting it later than most podcasts get shot in the evening.
I was telling you before we started, hopefully no one can hear as we get going here, but there's like a torrential downpour. Sounds like a tornado outside my window right now. So if you hear any loud banging in the background, it's just the thunder hitting my wall here. But
yeah, you get it around, bedtime, and we'll get our severe weather right in the middle of the night. So I'll text you at 1 a.m. if my children wake up with our severe storm coming.
Well, I appreciate you hopping on today. I do want to do just a kind of an overall Bassmaster Classic preview because this is going to come out on the Tuesday before the Classic starts. So it will be Classic Week when people are listening to this. And, we can have a little fun. We can do some predictions here and just lay out the groundwork for what people will be watching once Friday rolls around. So if we want to start here, how many Bassmaster Classics is this for you now? It's got to be getting up there.
Working or total?
I'll do working.
Working, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. This will be my 13th Classic. So I started doing the Classic when I was 19. Holy cow.
Do you have a soft spot for any of those classics? Like, is there one in particular that you just have a really fond memory of?
Oh man, I mean, I can remember so many, and like prior to working, there's obviously classic memories like the Takahiro one when I in '04 was in North and South Carolina at Wiley, and that was one of the first classics I remembered in person or following avidly because we fished Lake Wiley. And then I'm just taking you through prior to working because that'll kind of explain different things. But I got to go to the Lay Lake Classic where the entire top 10 was in beeswax when KVD won. And so we were like, I actually made my TV debut in that one. You could hear me yell when Ike catches his final fish of the Classic. We're right there in the flotilla, and you hear this little kid go, "Woo!" And that was me. And so I was like, "Hey, I was on ESPN way before I started working here." And that was cool because that was the Classic for me where we're at the BJCC there in Birmingham, and the amphitheater in between the convention center and the weigh-in venue. All the buildings are basically connected, but you walk outside briefly to get back inside. And that was where they had the hooked up stage for the show in the evening after the weigh-in to ESPN. And my dad was always huge on like NASCAR and NHRA drag racing of like, you wait by the velvet ropes until everyone else gets impatient and leaves. And then the person you're waiting on will come out when there's not a big crowd and you get to say hey to them. Well, we did that with like learning massive patience as a kid, wanting to leave. And my dad's like, just hang out. And then Tommy and Zona finished the show to ESPN that night. I got to talk to Tommy and Zona. And that was where it was like, I want to do this one day with you. And he was like, just keep working hard, kid, and you will. And like same line that goes ever. And that was then the first time I worked a Zona show, and the first time I worked a TV show with Tommy. I was like, you guys said this, and look at where we are. I think that was 2010. And so, it took 5 years for me to do TV, 4 years for me to work bass later. And I was like, I did it. You've probably said that line 100 times, but look at me. So that was a soft spot when it was like, man, so now any kid that comes up and says, I want to take your job, I'm like, when? But man, to think the first Classic was Randy Howe's comeback at Guntersville. And I remember, doing the GoPros with Shea Baker and the bass tracks all at the City Harbor Marina there in Guntersville, getting in the truck and then going back to Birmingham with Mercer and Zona and Tommy and Bowman to do the War Room back then, not necessarily live, but it was basically live. And I remember that final morning of the Classic, I pulled up Bass Track on my phone. It was clunky BlackBerry Sprint service, so I didn't have service. It had a bunch of buttons. And I pulled up Bass Track and was like, Randy Howe's got 4 fish for 20 pounds. And we were like about to split off to Birmingham. And if you know that road, when you're about to split to Birmingham, if you look left, that's the bridge that goes over Spring Creek. And there was cars and people lined up. So they whipped to Huey, and we're doing a bass cam. And I'm crawling through the back seat doing a bass cam as we're getting out. And we're watching Randy Howe catch his 5th keeper on the bridge. Like an hour after takeoff, 40 minutes after takeoff, he's already got 24 pounds, and so that's a core memory of like, holy cow, like that happened so fast, and boom, that's something that you don't get to necessarily experience anymore with us just doing live. But I'd say that was awesome. Casey winning at home was cool. The huge Edwin bag on the final day with the Christie stuff, every one of them has something special. That 2016 one was my last one on the water, and it was also my first one really taking photos. So my first 3 Classics were 3 totally different roles for me. We did the War Room with GoPro heavily, they were sponsoring the Classic, so it was GoPros and War Room. Then the next year was when Bass Live started. So Hartwell was the first event of Bass Live. So I was here trying to give updates, in the arena, not even out on the water. 2016, I did all the normal stuff, but I was out on the water taking photos. And I remember covering Alton Jones and Bill Lowen at Grand. And so I didn't ever get to cover the top winners, but I covered a lot of fun guys who were catching them unique ways. And then all of a sudden, 2017, it's the Classic live. Jordan Lee's massive, break down and come back. So I could reel off every single thing. I'd say that I've cried at every single classic weigh-in when someone's won because I know how much it means to them. I will say this in all honesty, like knowing the Cherries 20 and 21 was awesome. You know, growing up, Cherries grew up 30 minutes, or I grew up 30 minutes from the Cherries, BFLs, all that stuff. That was very cool to see Hank do that with his story, and all those other ones. But one for me where I realized I grew up was 2019, when you've got most of the field not fishing with bass in the future. It's an awkward, hey man, let's make this our, the trade rumors are true. We got one more game left though. You got to play for this team before you switch teams, whatever. And then Ott wins it, right? There's so many guys. And even though Ott's a big MLF guy and a big proponent, even in that stupid commercial about conservation, they ran 100 times about live wells and weigh-in bags being the devil and Ott being the face of that. Ott overall is a great guy and human. And I love Ott. And so it was kind of like a anybody but those guys type of classic. And it's like literally just Brandon Lester in the top 10. You're like, come on, Brandon, you're in 6th, catch a 19-pounder, or, and it was Zaldane on the day one kind of thing.
Yep.
But when Ott won it in front of his hometown, I was like, I'm not going to cry in this one because these guys are leaving and this isn't cool. And like Ott locked eyes with me as he's getting in his boat and he, sticks his hand out and we, do that and like lean in for like the hug and handshake as the boat's pulling by. And I was bawling because Ott's such a great Christian man, great angler, great family, always was so kind to me my first few years. And right there, I was like, it's more than just where you're fishing. The Classic's supposed to unite everyone. And in that moment, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna let him enjoy it and I'm gonna enjoy it because boy, that's to win in front of your hometown crowd would be super cool. And so, yeah, that was a different one. Not probably the one I thought when you asked me that question that I'd say. But of all of them, everyone's got something special. That one was where for me, I understood it and I felt like I was grown a little bit like, I'm not going to give a cold shoulder to the biggest moment in front of his home people. This was special, very special and dominant by him.
Well, that obviously gives us a nice transition then because that happened in Knoxville, Tennessee on the Tennessee River. And, that was an interesting thing to think about. I think, first off, I guess I'll say my soft spot is the Tennessee River because that was the first one I ever got to go to in person, was 2023, actually. I've watched it on TV forever, but I never got to go in person. I finally said, I'm making the trip. I want to see what this is all about. And then I've, said a billion times since then, I was like, I'll just never miss another one after that.
The Classic just is a dream come true moment for a lot of people, whether it's attending and seeing your, I recommend everyone go to 3 classics. You go to one where you're on the water and following people around. And because it's just a different vibe than watching live. Like you had to watch guys and get caught up with you pull up to a flotilla and you're like, how's he been doing? He's doing great, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, awesome. And then you meet these guys and you talk for 30 minutes watching this dude and you become friends with people. So go out on the water and watch a classic and then do the expo, keep up with it live. And then obviously the ones like going to the weigh-ins. Like, so that's why I think Knoxville's probably the best location ever. You can do all 3 of those feasibly and get the full experience of a takeoff, go drive your boat 20 minutes down the road, launch, watch them on the water, get back, see the weigh-in, even experience the expo if you want. So that's why Knoxville's great, but also great because that's where childhood dreams become reality. And I'll probably always remember the Louis Minetti. He posted in 2019 on Instagram, said, I'll be back someday. And as a kid, in 2019 as a college kid, and then he like wins the bracket and the classic he gets to fish is Knoxville. And you're like, he literally did come back to right there. He's like, I'll be in this arena one day. Yeah, actually that exact one.
With the torn up boat seats and everything. And that was Awesome. But I mean, to your point, it is like Knoxville was created in a lab for the perfect Bassmaster Classic setup, because I definitely got spoiled. The first year I went to Knoxville, I was like, well, this is awesome. I can walk to launch. I can stand. And, the river, by the way, sets up so well because people line each side of the river, and you can watch the guys as they take off, and it's great. And then, you go to Texas or you go to Oklahoma or whatever. You're like, wait a second. The lake is an hour and a half away from the expo, which is 20 minutes away from weigh-in, which is like, oh, it really doesn't set up this easy all the time. So yeah, if anybody was ever going to go to their first Bassmaster Classic, this year is a great time to do it, because it sets up just as perfectly as possible for like a fan-friendly, be able to go and do the trifecta and hit all three. And you don't have to make that choice of like, nope, I'm just going to go do the lake thing, or no, I'm just going to go to the expo. You can do all three so easy. All right, everybody, we will get back to the episode here in just a second. But first, the Tackle Talk podcast is brought to you in part by Humminbird. No matter what you're looking for, it could be basic 2D. You could want some great side imaging. You could be taking the dive into live sonar or 360. You could just want a real small unit for your first kayak. Whatever you're looking for, Humminbird has some great options for you with first-class features and technology like target lock, the Mega line of products. You've got Mega Live 2, you've got Mega Side Imaging, Mega Down Imaging, Mega 360, and they've got that great dual spectrum chirp sonar, all of that and more. Humminbird really is a one-stop shop for all marine electronics, graphs, and fish finders. So whether your project is big or small, whether you're just looking for really simple, basic features and nothing crazy, or you're a hardcore tournament angler looking for that cutting-edge technology, see for yourself why Humminbird is simply clearly better. For more information, you can go to www.humminbird.com. The Tackle Talk podcast is also brought to you in part by Minn Kota. And Minn Kota trolling motors, goes without saying, are just legendary in freshwater bass fishing. You've got the Ultrex, you've got the Altera, you got the Tarova. You have really basic units if you just want something to take your John boat around the pond, or you want like a tiller motor for a small boat or those tiny boat projects or whatever you need. Minn Kota has things on both sides of the spectrum. You can get features like spot lock or advanced GPS. There's sonar integration. I mean, obviously, Minn Kota and Humminbird are made to go together, so there's a lot of great technology between those two so that they can talk on your boat and they can work in unison, and you get the best out of both of those brands and both of those units. But wherever you need to go, Minn Kota will get you there. So for more information about the full line of Minn Kota trolling motors and shallow water anchors, you can visit www.minnkotamotors.com. Okay, so as far as the event itself goes, I mean, the last two times we've been here to the Tennessee River over the past 5 years, it's been the Gussie show every time. 3 years ago at the Classic, 5 years ago at the Elites. I mean, that 2021 Elite event was like Gussie out there with, I think it was Zaldane on day one. And we got to watch from the point of view of the camera guy in Zaldane's boat as he would like point over, and you just watch Gussie just beating the brakes off of these fish one after another after another. And then slowly we learned, oh, he's out there doing this really cool like moping deal for these deep smallmouth and that sort of Tellico Canal opening.
Also, that was the one where the locals were like, there's no way it'll be one on smallmouth. And then that's all he caught and won. And you're like, wow, strike, chalk one up, not for the locals. Like they were wrong on that.
So then you go to 2023 and it becomes a story of like, well, can he repeat it? Can he keep that bite going? Can he show that that can be replicated, 2 years later? And he did. And it was, I think, a lot closer than I think he wishes it was, especially that last day. That was a nail biter, but he did it. And then before that, like you said, you go back to Ott Defo, and that's that lipless bite that he got on. And that was a lot more kind of, quote unquote, old school pre-spawn bite, a hard bait, a moving bait real fast. So I think this will be a really cool Classic because you're going to see the convergence of those two things a little bit. But before we get into predictions of the actual anglers themselves, can you give us like a 30,000 foot view? If anybody has never watched an event on the Tennessee River, whether it's, all the Fort Loudon area, the Tellico area, all of that, can you give us an overview on how this fishery sets up and what makes it unique?
Well, I'd say that, it's two lakes in one, and it's not like you go left to go to one lake and right to go to another lake. You go through the entire first lake to then try to go all the way through the entire second lake, because it's all the way at the end of Fort Loudon is where Tellico begins, and they meet where the dam flows then to Watts Bar and then Chickamauga and Gunnersville, or Nickajack and Gunnersville, all that stuff through the Tennessee River. So it is two totally different fisheries. I would say Fort Loudon. There's 3 sections of each lake, I would say. So you could, in total, you'll see it the way we do our map, because we're not specifically, I don't know if you caught on with our coverage at Lake Martin, but not specific until the final day of where anglers were, but just general regions. And so we'll have 6 different regions, 3 of them, 3 regions on Fort Loudon, 3 on Tellico, 6 different regions where these guys could fall into, what we'd say. And Fort Loudon, I would say, generally runs dirtier, generally tends to act more like a river. And Tellico is much more like a highland fishery, running more clear. And obviously, when you have a highland fishery that runs more clear, when you do have those spring rains, it tends to get dirty. You have washouts, those different things. And so right now, with the way the weather's been, it hasn't been tremendously wet the last couple months. I would say there's not much difference, but during the Classic week, we should be getting some rain, and that may make some of those creeks dirty up, which means it could warm up as well. Some of those stagnant water back at the creeks get dirtier and warmer, which also means, I think right now, with the way the weather is, water temperature, and the way these lakes have fished, I would say that we may see more people in Tellico. We may see more fishing in Loudon. I do not think, if it's bold or not, I don't care. I do not think we will see it won the way it's been won in the past. Maybe style, but not one spot like that. It'll be on Main Lake, points. It'll be, maybe a stretch of Tellico. Maybe it'll be a couple creeks in Loudon. But I do not think it'll be the gut there between the 2 lakes and that traditional style. Even though it's forward-facing sonar, is a very traditional way of using it to catch them. We've advanced quite a bit in techniques to approach that since then. But so, yeah, I would say Fort Loudon acts much more like a river. It runs dirtier, definitely has more flow. Parts of Loudon act like a lake. Then Tellico is much more like a lake. It does have a feeder from the Little Tennessee, obviously, that forms it from the east in the mountains. But the runoffs there, it does tend to dirty up in places, but overall runs clearer. So I think that's what you're looking for, but I definitely think both can be sampled by our top 5, but I don't think someone can sample both to be in the top 5, if that makes sense. If you're going to Tellico, I think you're going to go all the way till you get to the lake before you stop, and you may hop around, or you may go as far as you're going to go and work your way back. And then for guys on Loudon, I don't think you're going to go all the way to the dam where the cut through is and then come all the way back up to a creek and then go back down. There's a lot of running. It's not many acres, and it's not the biggest playing field we've had for the Classic, but boy, it is long, and it is end to end, one lake fully before you get to the next, and versus like taking off at the top of Kentucky Lake where you can get to Barkley right there and you can fish both. It's like if we went all the way from Paris and you have to go all the way up Kentucky Lake to then go to Barkley. It's a long haul, and so you kind of have to dedicate to that. But we've seen guys like Whitaker. We saw, I want to say Polinick, maybe Fighter, something like that made Tellico work for multiple days, in whether it was the Elite or the Classic. I don't want to be wrong on that, but I think it was Polinick, and I know Whitaker was in there. And so I think we'll see a couple guys definitely be in our top 10 doing that as it changes.
What about the mix on that lake from largemouth to smallmouth? Like, I think, and this is, again, I've never fished down there. I don't know it too well, but like, I think of Fort Loudon as a lot more largemouth and shallower water and that type of bite, which is ironic because, like you said, it sets up more like a river. And when I think of rivers around here anyway, I think more smallmouth than largemouth. So is that true? Is it basically like you've got Fort Loudon on the first area that people will go through? They're going to have to go through Loudon to go to Tellico. The Loudon area is going to be more largemouth heavy. Once you get down to Tellico, that deeper, clearer water, you're going to run into more smallmouth?
I would say so. More smallmouth in the traditional smallmouth type of techniques that you'll do. I would say Fort Loudon, on the main drag of Fort Loudon, you'll see smallmouth get caught. But you can specifically target largemouth on Fort Loudon and get away from smallmouth going into a creek a little bit, getting shallower a little bit. Whereas those smallmouth, they'll stage on the main river, to spawn. They won't go as far back in creeks. And so that main river is still viable for smallmouth, but definitely it feels like it would be dirtier, dock fishing, chatterbaiting, square billing, largemouth in Fort Loudon. The big X factor is the size limit has now changed for smallmouth. Yeah. It was 18. And so it'll sound weird saying this, just my guess or my thoughts. Even though the smallmouth size limit's dropping from 18 inches to 15, I don't think smallmouth will dominate more, if that makes sense. I think that you'll see a lot more guys catch smallmouth and be able to catch limits of them, but it's not like you're selling out for bigger fish all day looking for 5, 18-inch smallmouth. They can still look for them, but now that you can keep 15-inch smallmouth, I just don't think we're going to see many guys commit to that as an all-day thing. If they have smallmouth and groups of them that are active and biting, you catch them, you fill your limit, you move on. Instead of painfully trying to catch 5 of the 18-inchers, you can go do that quickly, kind of like a spotted bass. Like you go catch a limit of spotted bass, go hunt for big largemouth all day. I think the smallmouth size limit getting lower helps our limit rate. It may decrease the overall sized fish, but it'll give guys more time to go fish for big largemouth without feeling like they're at a deficit if they come in with 3 fish. Go catch a couple smallmouth, or when you run across a smallmouth randomly off a laydown or a rock point, it can be a keeper and it's not a throwback. It adds to your total, allows you to fish for a 5-pound largemouth a lot easier. And so if that makes sense, I think because that limit dropped down, we're not going to see as many smallmouth getting weighed because guys can now compete with largemouth knowing that a limit is much more safe and secure. You'll still see guys sell out for all smallmouth. But as we get closer to March type weather, right, we had flooding conditions in that 19 Classic. We saw a lot more largemouth play up shallow with the flooding conditions. We had colder, obviously frigid conditions in the Elite in February and 21, all, mostly smallmouth and all smallmouth for the winter. Then you get 23, little mix, and it's warming. If that Classic's 3 days later, Gussie doesn't win it. But it was 3 days earlier. He blows it out like he did 21 for the Elite because it was very cold and then was getting very warm on that final day. And so it was like survival, but we saw largemouth gaining steam. With it being warm these last 10 days or so leading into practice, the last few days, and now obviously as you're watching this, they're about to do final practice day tomorrow. I think that it being already warm and the only big change is how much rain, or if the rain's cold, even though I don't think it's going to be 30-degree rain that's going to really cool it down or anything like that. It will maybe take it from 70s and 50s to 60s and 40s for the temperatures. It's not going to set these fish back. It's going to still be fine and stable. We have to remember the water temp on the main drag of the river is going to run naturally cooler. So more water coming down, it's not going to shock them. It's naturally going to be the last place that spawns. But those creeks in the back, if we get sun after that rain, you're going to have dirtier water warming up faster. I think a largemouth are going to factor a whole lot more. Even though it was most of our top 10, other than our winner, I think it's going to be the Fort Loudon everyone expected the first time.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. I think the past 2 times at least that we've seen a big tournament here, it's like you did have to take the home run swing to go after smallmouth. Like that was a all in, that was your game plan, and that was it. And that's what you're going on. And now, yeah, I guess it's a good point. I probably would have thought, oh, we'll see more smallmouth weighed in because now more of them will be able to be kept as keepers. But I mean, yeah, they might not be the big shock like, oh my gosh, we're seeing all these giant smallmouth because people sold out for them. So yeah, interesting dynamic there for sure. It's a fun part about these mixed bag fisheries.
Yeah, and I might be totally wrong. I might be the idiot in the room, but I mean, I'm the only one in the room, so I can be the smart guy and the idiot. But it could be totally opposite of what I'm saying, but stylistically, it's much more easy to fish this fishery now with 3 less inches for smallmouth. A lot more guys who maybe missed the cut would make the cut if they would have got a 5th keeper that was just a keeper smallmouth. Now we'll see those guys. But I really do think it'll be whatever game plan you can pick with by the final day of practice. I feel like it's only going to just get stronger, through the tournament. We'll see. Whereas it was like it started too late for largemouth guys after day 1 and day 2.
Yeah.
Gussie had the 2 biggest bags of the tournament and then caught 2 fish and was able to win the Classic.
Yeah.
They were catching him so quickly. Even if it was 1 day longer, they run him out of the arena on Monday.
Yep.
But that's why you play the game.
So where do you think most of the field will end up going, or at least starting, like Loudon versus Tellico? Like, because the 321 bridge is only so big, right? That whole area right there that we've seen the past couple times, like you're not fitting 60 guys right there. So they're going to be spread out all over the place. Where do you think most people are going to go?
Let me pull up my map just so I can make sure of direction. Oh, it's already on there. Good. I would say it might be a longer stretch, but I'll just give a general point of interest. The 140 bridge, just, I guess, what is that? Just north of Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
The 140 bridge just north of Louisville, just past Concord, maybe Friendsville, that part of Fort Loudon. If you're looking at the 140 bridge through, the Friendsville turn in the river, that's where it acts more like a lake than any other part of Fort Loudon, in my opinion. And I expect to see a lot go down there. But then I also will say the same thing for that section just before the dam on Tellico, from the Venor, the 411 or 33 bridge, whatever they call it, 72. It's got 3 different names on that bridge, so whatever they want to call it. The bridge that crosses Fort Loudon, the bridge that crosses Tellico. From that bridge to Tellico Village, on the map, that range, I would say you're not at the dam and you're not up the river. It's the most lake type place on both fisheries. I feel like it's going to go down in that range, and it's got the best creek access than, more creek access than any other parts of the stretch of the rivers and lakes. And then also just the elements that are in that range. Tellico obviously has a couple creeks that can maybe get dirty with run-ins. It's got docks. It's got some twists and turns there, contours that are good. And then that stretch of the river there, just being on Fort Loudon in the past, it just feels like it's a fishy stretch of the river. And I'd expect Concord, which is obviously I think Turkey Creek and whatever the other creek, I'll just call it Concord. Those 2 creeks will get a lot of looks, but Louisville, I think that's what's it called? It's like, I don't know that creek name. I wrote it down on our map. I ID'd it, but now I don't know. Maybe it's like, it's not Lick Creek, but something like it. That range I feel like is doable. We'll always see one guy or 2 guys make it from I wish I pulled up a better map quickly, from like the Little River. I think that's what it's called. The Little River that juts in just north of there, basically halfway in between Concord and the takeoff. That range, we'll see. But I feel like that stretch of the river from 140, that gives me about a 8-mile, 10-mile stretch that, 10 guys can really succeed on, I think.
So next question then, before we get into like some actual predictions of who you think will do well, I think I want to try and narrow it down a little bit. Do you think this is going to be old or young?
For the winner or top 25? What are we doing?
We'll go winner for now.
See, it's weird because it's not necessarily young, but it's young to the Classic. Here's my, I'm just gonna kind of avoid your question by You're not hitting me in the old versus young right now. Okay. I think it's this. Lee Livesey wins the Bassmaster Classic.
Okay.
Or it's a first-time Classic qualifier, which has not happened since 2007. But they're not necessarily all young guys, right? There are young guys since their first Classic, but you got some Dylan Filardo, he fished the same time I did it. He was at Chattanooga.
Tennessee guy too, right?
He's 32. I think he's originally from the north, but been there for at least 15 years.
Yeah.
He's 32, so he's not one of the young guys, And so Cody Meyer, first time guy, Dakota Ebert, first time guy. I think a first time, it's only happened, and I'm giving you all the numbers, but I wrote it down and I also put it in the live well. And so this is the way Ronnie is absolutely honest. I'm not going to go on 6 podcasts and have 6 different predictions, so I'm right. Well, I'll pull this clip, I'll be all right. But I wrote it down and felt good enough to write it down, felt good enough to do it in the live well. So this is what I'm sticking with. I think Lee Livesey wins the Classic. He's been in 5. He's never finished worse than 15th. I think it's warming up to be his style and do really well. And those Classics have ranged that he's done well in, and from South Carolina to Tennessee to Texas, and to Alabama, I think, as well. So I'm going to say, it's not just he did it in Texas at Ray Roberts a couple of times. No, he did it. He didn't even make the 21 Ray Roberts one, just the most recent one. From Guntersville to Hartwell to Knoxville to Grand to Ray Roberts, that's all 5 of his Classics, top 15 in all of them. So if he makes it, he's normally in the final day, or he is in the final day, and he's normally in the top 10 somewhere. I think he's been in the Super 6 3 times. So Lee Livesey's my pick. And a first timer, like I said, I'm giving you the numbers. It's only happened 8 times in history that a first time Classic guy has won the Classic. 6 of them were in the first 8 years of the Classic. Yeah. Obviously, Bobby Murray was the first guy to win a Classic, and it was his first Classic, And so some of those guys fished their first Classic in the infancy of the Classic.
So then after that, what you said, it was 6 at the beginning. So there's only been 2 since the real early days.
Yeah, 2 since 86. So I'll read them off. I've got a good spreadsheet of every single day of every single Classic, who's led, how many days, who has led the most Classic days, how many Classics have been led wire to wire, how many Classics have had 3 different leaders, and then this stat, which is Bobby Murray in 71, Rayo Breckenridge 73, Tommy Martin 74, Jack Haynes 75, all won the Classic in their first try. That's 4. You had Stanley Mitchell, the youngest ever, 21 years old, which we have 3 guys that can break that this year if they won. Yeah. So Stanley in 81, Charlie Reed in 86. That's 4. That's 5, 6. Fritz in 93 won his first one. Boyd Duckett in 07, and none since Duckett have won on their first try. And so it's a young man's sport lately, but an old man's Classic or a veteran's Classic. Even Easton Fothergill can't win it the first time, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good point. My pick is along those lines. I guess we'll just do our picks now, and then I got some overall questions for you. Mine's going to be Brandon Lester.
Oh, I want it so bad for him. I'm not a rooting guy. I am a journalist through and through, no matter what fishermen and fans say. I do not actively root for anybody. I know everyone's story. I know what everyone's failed to do, what everyone hopes to do. And so I know how much it means to them to see it through. And so I cover the game as objective as possible. But man, it's the Lester would be a fan favorite. 3 guys called Tennessee home in the Classic. Dylan Nutt, Dylan Filardo. They're both first-time Classic guys. And then Mr. Rocky Top himself, Brandon Lester, who's not from Knoxville, but roots him, went to Chattanooga. And he's gotten 6th in both Classics here in Knoxville. He is the most rock-solid, consistent guy.
Yeah.
Format, whatever you want to do. Lester's, I said this, and this is off topic. But to reiterate your point, when we had the split and MLF didn't invite Brandon Lester, I said, big mistake. One of the biggest mistakes they ever, not inviting him. What a stud in the making. And he's won since then. He's won an Open. He's won an Elite. Waiting for him to win an AOY. He is just that good. And technology or not, man, I don't know if he would want to throw a sea urchin around, but technology or not, he can run the graphs with the best of them at times, and he's about as wired with gills as you can get as an old timer too.
To your point earlier, though, if it rains, watch out.
If he had one more hour in the 23 Classic, he wins.
Yeah.
He was catching them every cast and had to leave.
Yeah.
It was like, it was going down and about to continue to go down.
9 Bassmaster Classic appearances, a top 10 in his last 2 classics, I think, that he's fished. So last year, and then not the year before that, the year before that. 4 top 10s in classics out of his, I can't remember how many. Yeah, 9 that he's been in. Yeah. And then 6th place here in 2023. Like, yeah, scary, consistent guy. I think he would be really fun to watch, especially if we get a little bit of rain, if it dirties up and those largemouth start playing. I think that he's my pick. But
there's 4 guys, just for you. Sorry, just for your knowledge. I think there's 4 guys that if this will be their 10th or more classic. Bill Lowen's the oldest angler in our field, but Lowen, Cruz, Lester, and Polinick are all over 10. Cruz and Polinick with 14, Lowen with 12, and Lester with 10. So there's your 4 double-digit classic guys.
So I think there's 3 in the field here that have won it before. So you have Hamner, Jordan Lee, and you have Fothergill.
Thank you for saying Hamner, because I didn't even think about that. He was so quiet.
So of the 3 of those, who do you think has the highest finish?
Ooh. I think it'll be Fothergill. I think it'll be Fothergill. I think all 3 make the final day cut. I'll say we'll have all 3 classic guys make the final day cut. I wouldn't be shocked if it was like 14th, 16th, 18th type of thing. Because they all have good traits for this classic venue. I'll say Fothergill.
Do you think that our winning bait, I mean the real winning bait, not the winning bait in the picture for somebody's sponsor, like the actual winning bait that ends up solidifying this classic, does it look like a sea urchin or a koosh ball, or is it something completely different?
I think it's going to be freaking one on a chatterbait, brother.
That'd be awesome.
I know. I think it is. Or it'll be on a jigsaw, I guess, because that's what the Sixth Sense chatterbait is that Lee Livesey will be throwing. It'll be one on a chatterbait.
Okay. Besides chatterbait, what other techniques do you think are going to be heavy in play here?
Flipping a jig, cranking, and I think chatterbaiting. I would say spinnerbait, but I don't think it's going to be dirty enough in enough places to do that. I think that chatterbait is just going to excel in a lot of water clarities. We obviously saw people do well in Teleco on it as well, around docks, floating things, stuff like that. I think a jig, picking apart the structure, a chatterbait, and some sort of flat side or square bill or a flat sided square bill, however you want to do it, whatever you want to do, a circuit board type deal, chatterbait and a jig.
I hope you're right. Holy cow, would that be fun to watch?
Green pumpkin with a few strands of orange, maybe a few strands of purple, and a chunk, green pumpkin chunk with a little purple in it too. There we go. I'm going to get real specific with you.
Well, I mean, I should say you do have a pretty good track record at the moment. I should have mentioned at the top, but when we're asking for predictions, you called Fisher and I at Lake Martin. So yeah, we've got a good track record. So you're coming off a big win.
Yeah, you saw me in that podcast fighting myself on how to say this. Not that I'm eternal pessimist on his first finish, but I was like, I just don't think it's going to come as easy at Guntersville as everybody thinks. Your first elite, home water, no forward facing. I think it's cold. I think it's going to be a struggle. And he comes out and pops a 6-pounder and a 3-pounder on Bass Live the first 10 minutes. I was like, I'm a freaking idiot. And then he only catches 18 that first day, half of his weights in the first 10 minutes. And then that second day was a struggle and he gets in the 70s or whatever, 60s, 70s, 80s. And then to see him start rising up on that leaderboard at Martin, I was like, I'm not going to say a thing until it gets close. And then I was like, that final day, I said, I just knew he was going to feel much more comfortable week 2 than week 1.
It was just nasty though. All you say is just like, I've got him for Martin. That was all it was. It was just like a throwaway line and then just boom. All right, everybody, we'll get back to the episode here in just a second. But first, the Tackle Talk podcast is brought to you in part by Amped Outdoors. Amped Outdoors is an industry leader in lithium batteries engineered and built for all types of marine applications: trolling motors, graphs, live sonar, ice fishing, kayak motors, you name it. Amped has a battery for you. You get the highest quality components, waterproof case designs, Bluetooth connectivity, and heated charging, both of those last two on their larger kind of like 50 amp hour and up batteries. You're going to get Bluetooth connectivity and you can charge it in any weather conditions. You get all of that plus an industry-leading 10-year no gimmick warranty and world-class customer support based out of Hudson, Wisconsin. So for more information, you can head over to www.ampedoutdoors.com today and power your passion with Amped. Okay, my last two questions here.
Which I called 3 guys last year, by the way. That same rookie prediction type thing. I said Paul Mark's best finish this season would be Hartwell. He won that. I said Tucker Smith's best would be Fork. He won that. And I said, I picked the low-hanging fruit. I said Easton Fothergill was going to have his best finish of the season at the Classic. He was at that point the only rookie in the Classic last year. So I was like, I'm going to pick him for that one. He wins that one. So I was like, if we're going to talk about rookies and where they're best, I'm much better than I am in regular fantasy fishing right now at that.
Well, then I'll change my last question here. It's what are the Powerball numbers?
Which state? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Okay, no, serious last two questions here. First one, last time that we were here, it was like 42 pounds, 7 ounces, I think that Gussie took to win it. Do you think we eclipse that? And if so, by how much?
I think we eclipse that at maybe day 2 lead.
Ooh.
It'll be, I think it'll be, 20 a day. The first 2 days, and then maybe the last day, it may work itself out a little differently math-wise, but I think, and now just so I can be completely honest with the world, because I got no skin in the game, I got 56.3, which 56.3 is 18, 18 and a half, 18,
So you're banking on some low 20 bags, yeah.
Yeah, I think that we'll see I think we'll see a couple guys with, 16, then they catch 20, and then they catch 19, 16, 20, and 19, 16, 20, and 18. That's going to be 16, 20, and 18 averages out to be 18. Now, whatever the ounces are may elevate it more, but 18 a day, 1836, that's 54. If you've got half a pound there, it's going to be 55 and a half, 56. So, yeah, I think that's a 56 would be a good showing for sure. I can't say that it's going to be 58 to 60, which people say that's difference. Still like a pound a day different. Yeah. And that if you're getting at 60 with how much the Classic changes at times, that means you're going to have to 22 and 4 and 16, type of thing. I don't think 222s. I think you scrape it with 20 pounds, 3 ounces. I think you go get 18, but the weights have been good. They're good there lately. And I just know how you either come out of the gate slow or you come out of the gate hot and have a hard final day, and that's not that I want that for anybody, but if Easton Fothergill can break all the records and take to the last minute to catch an 8-pounder last year, who's saying Tellico and Fort Loudon aren't immune to that?
All right, last question here. Who's your dark horse? Like a true dark horse pick?
Hard to say a dark horse if I'm saying a first-time guy's going to win it because there's so many of them. So if I pick a rookie in the Classic, it sounds like, well, how are you saying one of them is going to win it, but that guy's a dark horse? I do like Laker Howell in this tournament, representing the Opens. And then if I had to give you an Elite Series guy that I think now, don't flood fantasy fishing and ruin my decent percentage there. But dark horse representing the non-elites, Laker Howell, the dark horse representing the elites, Cody Meyer.
Mine is Emil Wagner. I think in a tournament where live sonar is allowed, he's good. I mean, I think the last 2 tournaments that he has fished where, take out Gunnersville, obviously, he won Lake Champlain on the EQ, and he finished 3rd at Lake Martin. Kid's a stud.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, he didn't win an All-American for nothing. And
no.
Great dude overall. So well-spoken. We had a conversation today about who was represented as the Classic champ well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what people expect from Classic champs, carry the trophy everywhere they go and, talk about how good the sport is, or just, man, what a good guy, what a good story, not going to make headlines for the wrong thing. can introduce your kid to them and not be worried about what happens. I think we've had really great classic champs the last couple of years for sure. And man, Emil would be a great classic champ. Absolutely.
Yeah, the classic just has a way of like picking the right person to win it. Like it's been a long time since there's just been like a completely rando, like, oh, there's not a good story there. There's not any cool storyline or anything to really go off of, just a complete random win. Like, I mean, almost everyone in recent memory has either been like, you've got people, starting their trajectory of winning two, or you've got a great story like Easton, or you've got, all these people. Hamner was a great story. All of those. I think the classic, it's like the Harry Potter movie of like the Sorting Hat. Like it's just got its own way of figuring out who deserves to hold the trophy at the end of it. And I think that's been the fun and the magic of the classic.
Someone said, I think they worded it this way, but almost 50% of the most recent classics have been won in some sort of a back-to-back. And so that aspect's in play with Fothergill as well, because you have Jordan Lee in 17 and 18 winning it. Mm-hmm. That's the front half and back half of a back-to-back. You have 20 and 21 for Cherry. And so within the last 10 classics, this will be the 10th classic, 17 to 26, 10 classics there. 4 of the last 9 have been a part of a back-to-back. And so if that's an aspect of it as well. Also, what was it? No, we only had 19 in the middle. I was about to say, if it's like 2 years in between back-to-backs for wins, we need to keep watch an eye out for the trends. But not the case. But yeah, I mean, take it for what it is. It's a hard path no matter which way you take to get to the classic. No easy path. Everyone's got a story of either they're so young in the sport, but we always say they're so young they don't even know what it really means. False. Because most of the young guys have been watching bass fishing since we've been live. And if they're like me, they grew up with the Elite Series in 06. And, you could be 20. Like Trey was born, I guess, on the Elite Series inauguration, year 2006, 2005, something like that. And so even the youngest of the young were born within the Elite Series era of tournaments. And they know what it means. And they did not grow up saying, I want to be an astronaut. And they said, I'm going to be a bass fisherman, They used to say that. Davey Height used to say that, and all his work buddies laughed at him, right? Now, our generation's saying it, and in the classroom, they're like, what? Bass fishing? You can make a living doing that? It's like, so I'll just say, like, the young guys, they know what it means. Now, do they know the responsibility involved with it? Probably not, but they've had good examples of what to carry the torch. So I think that no matter what path you've taken to get there, even this, I'll give a shout out to Noah Winslow. Noah Winslow's second in the Bass Nation Championship, makes the classic. He's from Connecticut. Relatively, compared to others, nobody knows his name, right? I covered Noah when he was a high school All-American in like 2015, like everyone's got a path, and knowing these kids for as long as I've known them, and I call them kids because I could be their big brother, or you're the same age as me and I'm still called a kid, but they have long paths. Like high school All-American, decided not to do college, works a job, is the grassroots northeast angler, and now you make the classic after doing the hardest route of the Bass Nation. Man, he knows what it means. It's gonna mean a lot, I promise.
Well, it's the dumbest argument in the world when you could say like, oh, someone like a 22-year-old Easton Fothergill or whatever doesn't know what it means. Like you wouldn't say that about any other sport. If Drake May would have won the Super Bowl this year, would we have like all been on First Take the next day being like, he doesn't understand what it means to be a Super Bowl champ because he's young? No, what are you talking about? He's been playing football since he was 7 years old, working up to this. Same thing with these guys.
Yeah. You've dreamed about doing it. You've visualized doing it, Yeah. That's why I get upset. I have literally visualized the classic moment of someone doing that and what it means to them, right? Yeah. And so it's like, you just insert whoever, right? It's the same thing as like a player retiring, or you hope they win their final game, or you hope whatever. Like, I'm visualizing that for my high school basketball kids. I got 6 seniors. We got 5 games left in the season. I pray we're up 20 so I can sub them out with a minute left and give them the ovation at nationals they deserve. And we're probably going to cry like little babies, because it's like, you have played a lot of games and now who knows what the future holds. It's the same thing, just a different level. When it's the Classic, it's like, man, I just have to now win it again. There's nothing that's going to beat this. I don't care if you win an AOY. If you've a lot of guys who say the AOY is best, it's because they won the AOY first.
Yeah.
I highly doubt someone who's won a Classic turns around and wins AOY and says, yeah, AOY was better than the Classic. I highly doubt it. Maybe it's respected more by anglers, but if you've won AOY, you do that to cope. I'm going to rage bait some people. You do that to cope because that's the one you've won. But if you've won a Classic, I promise you, it's probably much better than any season-long gauntlet that you've done. Yes, it's a harder task, but boy, you're coming off the high of the whole season and you're exhausted, and they hand you AOY trophy. Job well done. You are in your most amped up state when they hand you your trophy, winning the Classic, right? You're like exhausted. It's over. It's just beginning for the Classic. Like, we're about to party all night in the Hilton, in the lobby with the trophy. And whether it's alcohol or not, like, plenty of times I've been partying out there with a Mountain Dew in my hand because we're all jacked up that someone won and this guy's got a Classic trophy. So I'll say it's just a different emotion. I don't see us making a special spot for an AOY on a mantle. We're going to push them all to the side and put the Classic right there. I'm just saying.
Well, that's a great preamble for what's about to happen. In 5 days, someone's life will either change or will get exponentially better in 3 people's cases, I guess, if they repeat. But before we let you go, can you tell folks that are listening to this, so this is coming out on Tuesday. Again, Bassmaster Classic is about to start in a couple days. Where can folks watch it? There's a lot of different coverages. There's a lot of different options to soak in the Classic during the day, during weigh-in, all that kind of stuff. Where can folks tune in, and like what channels and what mediums can people use?
Truly, this is like the college football national championship, where you can watch the no commentator version. You can watch former or current athletes commentate it. You can watch the pros commentate it, meaning the pros like Tommy Sanders, the pros that commentate it. And you can watch stuff in person if you want. So yeah, watching it should be easier than ever. Bassmaster.com all day Friday. I do not know specifically when we'll be live on YouTube, but I do know there's a concerted effort to do more YouTube live. We've done more YouTube live the first 2 Elite Series events every day. And so I would expect there to be multiple YouTube live streams throughout the week that you can focus in on. And so Bassmaster.com all day Friday. There should be some YouTube as well. We'll have live casts with Anglers and Kyle, Anglers and Mercer, Anglers and Andrew Hayes possibly on there. We'll have the normal broadcast, like I said, Bassmaster.com and on Fox on Saturday afternoon, Fox on Sunday afternoon with Tommy, Zona, Davey, guests, things like that. So we've got pretty simple compared to others. .com all day Friday, .com Saturday and Sunday. And when we're not on .com with the full show, it's on Fox. And then we've got YouTube's going on throughout it. Some of them different, some of them the same with different commentators, right? Like what we're doing the show wise with Tommy and Z, they'll be watching sometimes the same thing, but it's different commentators in live cast. And then we've got, when it comes to weigh-in, we've got the normal weigh-in feed, which the weigh-in is going to be shorter. We are not trying to make it longer, no matter what people think. It's going to be shorter. Naturally, it's going to be shorter because it's Knoxville. But there is a concerted effort to get less things going on before the weigh-in and get the weigh-in going quicker. So that's a thing. Weigh-in stream on .com. We have an all-access stream that me and you with some guests are going to be pioneering. We did it last year. Basically, we're watching the weigh-in while giving analysis of each guy's day, interviews backstage, some different looks that you don't get during that normal weigh-in. So if you have both up, you'll be able to hear some backstage with Andrew as they pull through, mute it when I start talking, and then you can hear Mercer introduce them and hear them weigh in, and then you can come back when you see him in the tunnel with Andrew again. And so, yeah, there's all those streams there. And then very cool, right when weigh-in is done, you can watch on Fox again, Big Fox, the weigh-in for the Classic as we crown a champion, just like we used to do to ESPN. It'll be to Fox live, in theory, within just a few. There's a little tape delay. Sorry, we're going to make that show pretty, and you never know with an unfiltered weigh-in how pretty or not pretty it is. So, going to have a little delay to make sure the show is right. But they will be making that show as we go through weigh-in. And when that winner is crowned, boom, they flip the switch and we'll be on Fox for the Classic winner, Classic champion reveal,
Bass fishing on Big Fox. Get excited. We're hitting it this weekend. Ronnie, thank you so much for stopping by. We're all excited. Again, it is the Super Bowl of bass fishing. This is whether you're going in person, which I've talked to a lot of people. We've got a lot of messages. There's a lot of people that are going to make the pilgrimage for the first time. You are picking a great place to do it. Fan-friendly, easy access. We look forward to seeing you all there. Ronnie, thank you for stopping by. And if one of your picks wins, I'll make sure to post the clip for you.
Yeah, or if I get the bait right, who knows? I threw a lot of things out there. We're hoping one of those, I went Ted Lasso on the dartboard and a couple hit in the right spot. But yeah, and you said, hey, this is going to be 30 minutes long. It's never 30 minutes with me. Sorry for taking longer than we planned for.
Well, folks, there you have it. I think that sets the stage pretty well for what we're about to watch this weekend. Will it be a young gun, like a Trey McKinney type? Will it be a back-to-back, like Easton Fothergill? Will it be a seasoned veteran? My pick, Brandon Lester. Ronnie's pick, Lee Livesey. What about a local like Dylan Nutt? Could it be someone that's won the Classic before? Jordan Lee, Justin Hamner. Obviously, Easton's in that category as well. What about a rookie sensation like a Fisher Anaya? Are we going to see this one on largemouth in dirty, stained water on traditional moving baits after a rain pre-spawn? Or are we going to see like deeper, clear water smallmouth on sonar win this thing? Or maybe both. It's wide open this year, and that's why it's so fun. And I don't know about you guys, but I am so excited to see how this goes down this weekend. So be sure to tune in on regular Fox over the weekend, Bassmaster.com, YouTube, all the additional feeds, Roku, everywhere. And overall, just enjoy it. It's the best weekend of the year for fishing. This is our big moment. Take a second, set aside all the drama and negativity and all that stuff, and just enjoy the biggest spectacle in bass fishing. And with that, I will bid you adieu for this week. If you want to keep up with us here at Tackle Talk, you can head over to tackletalkpodcast.com. Over there, the mailbag and the fishing poll are both open right now for you to participate in for an upcoming episode. If you have any questions, you can email us, tackletalkpodcast@gmail.com. And we'll see you right back here next Tuesday for another brand new episode of Tackle Talk.
Thank you for listening to the Tackle Talk podcast. Tackle Talk is produced by Andrew Hayes. Copyright 2019. For more, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.